What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode here on the Big Red Nation channel. My name is Jason. Uh, how's everybody doing on this fine Wednesday night? Man, what to talk about, huh? What to talk about? Well, this is the Minnesota game preview show, but man, there's a lot of things that have happened since Sunday. So let's just go ahead and talk about kind of the elephant in the room. Everybody else has been giving their thoughts. I'm going to go ahead and give my thoughts on the whole possibility of Matt Rhule taking the Penn State job with all the rumors. So let's go ahead and put the obvious things kind of out of the way. The obvious things are, sorry, let me kind of fix that a little bit. The obvious things are, right? He fits that program very well. Whenever you listen to Pat Kraft talk about what he's going to be looking for in the next head coach, kind of makes a lot of sense too with Matt Rhule. It's almost too perfect, right? To have Matt Rhule be the next head coach at Penn State. Kind of saw a little clip earlier of Jay Paterno being interviewed on 1620 The Zone's Gary and Matt in the morning, and whenever he was explaining kind of what they could be looking for, and they keep saying fit and know all this stuff, and it's got to be the right fit and blah blah blah. Obviously, that makes a lot of sense. But here's what I personally think, and this is just coming from many different things that Matt Rhule has said in the past, even what he said at the press conference on Monday. Just kind of what my personal thought is. And just pretty much because, look, the whole, this has kind of been a topic of conversation ever since he was hired at Nebraska. What if the Penn State job ever opened? Would he go? I mean, it's always just been chatted about, period. So this is what I personally do think. I think at one point, Penn State was his dream job. And I don't think it currently is. And that's kind of the biggest takeaway that I have. Now, look, it could always, I mean, coaches, especially like with sports, coaches, you can never really read them. I mean, they'll, you've had plenty of examples of coaches saying, hey, look, I'm here. I'm committed to being here. I'm not going anywhere. And then literally leave in like a week to the place that he said he was not going to be going to. Rhule even did that before at Baylor, before he went to the NFL. And so there's nothing that he specifically is going to come out and say that I'm just going to full-heartedly believe. And that just goes with any coach. It has nothing to do with Rhule or what type of person I think Matt Rhule is. But just my instinct, my gut feeling says that he's not going to leave. I think he does love it here. I think he has made plans. And I just don't think he's willing to abruptly change all that to go to an alma mater, a place that he loves dearly, and possibly because look, all coaches are very confident, they're very competitive, and they say, well, you know what, I will be good there, I will succeed there. But I think he's also kind of a realistic person that looks at things very realistically. I think he has a great perception on just things. And I think he sees kind of here at Nebraska what people think about Scott Frost. Scott's coaching tenure for, I would say, 90 to 95% of this fan base, his coaching tenure has scarred him or scarred them on him. Like, and to be honest, I'm kind of one of them. I mean, I know you see right back here this autographed Scott Frost poster. Yeah, I'm still going to have it up. I'm never going to act like he never played here. But screw Scott Frost, man. I don't want to see him succeed at UCF. Because if everything that we hear is true, and I'm sorry, there's way too much smoke to think that a lot of those things that we've been hearing as fans now, that since he's been gone, about how he did his job here. No, you sank this program that you supposedly loved worse than this program has ever been. For whatever reason, I don't know. Maybe there's some deeper scarrings. I don't know. But at the same time, like, if you love this place that much and you wanted to see this place succeed, you would have put in the work. And I don't believe he fully did. So, yeah, I'm one of those fans that, like, again, I'm not going to pretend like he never played here. Hey, thanks for winning us the national championship. But, if he never shows back up for a 97 reunion, I couldn't care less. And I don't think Matt Rhule wants that. Even though it's not like he was like this big time Penn State player, he was a walk on. He got on, did special teams. It wasn't like he was some star player that, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are even Penn State diehards that have no clue Matt Rhule even played for the team. But I think for him, he doesn't want to have any of that love that he has for Penn State be ruined for any reason. And I think also the situation has a lot to do with it. If James Franklin was fired after having 2 or 3 seasons in a row of like 6-7 wins, some really embarrassing losses, stuff like that, I think it'd be a different story. Because he knows he can go and do a rebuild and really get a program rolling. And the expectations would be different. The expectations clearly right now that Penn State has put out there is not only do you need to keep up winning 10, 11, or 12 games a year, anytime you play a ranked opponent that's equal or higher ranked than you, you better win those games. You can't lose those games. Because we can sit here and say, or Penn State fans can sit there and say, well, it's more because of what happened against UCLA and Northwestern back-to-back. That's what really did them in. I think that gave Penn State the excuse. But the reason why the fans have been asking for Franklin to get fired now for a good couple of years is because he can't win the big games. He can't win the ranked games. He can't win a Big Ten championship game. He can't win in this, but even though he was 2-1 in last year's playoffs, that 3 weeks ago, they were ranked in the top 5. But whatever happened, something mentally happened with that team after losing to Oregon in double overtime. And it knocked them out for 2 weeks playing against 2 really bad teams and lost to both of them. And those allowed Penn State, the athletic director, the boosters, whoever, the board of regents, whoever was involved in this decision, it allowed them the excuse to now be able to fire and move on. But the main reason, especially with at least the fan base, the reason why they've been calling for Franklin to get fired is because of the big game and the lack of wins in those situations. So I think Matt Rhule sees that and goes, look, there's a higher percent chance that I could be successful there, but it's still not be enough. And I could still get fired. And then the place that I love will stop loving me back. And I wouldn't want that. If I was Matt Rhule, I wouldn't want that. I think he knows he can love them from afar, be the Husker football coach, which if you want to just talk program to program, I think we're fairly equal. As far as what our brand is, I think Nebraska's brand might be just a little bit bigger than the Penn State brand. I mean, current success, not necessarily, obviously, but I think just overall, as far as the history and what the brand means. And if Matt Rhule gets going, what he knows he can get going here, then no, Nebraska's brand will be much bigger than Penn State, no matter what. I mean, they could also be a brand that's in the playoff, or a program that's constantly in the playoffs, constantly in the top 5, top 10. But if Nebraska's having that same equal success, Nebraska is the better brand, and it's the bigger brand every time. So I think that's a much bigger draw for Matt Rhule, the coach, whenever it comes to coach and status and how he wants to be. I think you can just tell by the way he's kind of personality changed this year, doing the podcast, getting on Pat McAfee, doing all these different things. He seems way more relaxed. I think he seems way more like himself. Like he's finally going, I can just be me. I can be me now. And I'm having fun because he's now comfortable. He feels at home. He feels I think he feels really good about where the program's heading, where this team specifically this year is heading. And I don't think you throw that all away to go to Penn State and still win maybe 10, 11 games, but then that not being enough. And then what happens in 2-3 years? You're fired? Whenever you could have stayed here, and he's going to turn this program around, and he's going to be a legend for this program. If he can legit turn this thing around and say he wins us maybe a Big Ten championship game, gets us to the playoffs a couple times, he doesn't even have to win us a national championship. And that man will probably have a statue somewhere at Memorial Stadium or something. There will be something to remember him by. Be honored. He will be honored with something, a naming somewhere, a statue, something. His name somewhere. Like I said, something will be done to remember Matt Rhule if he can get this program back to that type of status. So if I really had to put a bet down, I'm betting that Matt Rhule is sticking here. Remove that. Sorry about that. But all right. So that's kind of all I have to really say about the Matt Rhule situation. I want to talk about something that I said on my review show, and that on the review show of the Maryland game, the What Just Happened episode. And I said at the very end, I thought just due to a lot of the other losses, Nebraska would get ranked. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Nebraska is back. Let's take a look at these rankings here. All right. Let's have our nice little discussion about what a mess these polls are. Okay. Look, Nebraska finally ranked. I'm happy about that. Let's just be happy about that. Okay. Nebraska ranked 25th. And I can't remember if it's the AP poll. In the AP poll, Nebraska is ranked 25th. Okay. Right behind Cincinnati. We're like 2 spots behind Cincinnati here. It's almost like it's too bad that we couldn't have played Cincinnati already this year to see who was the better team, to see who should be ranked higher. Oh, wait. We did. That was game 1 of this year. I forgot. I thought it's been so long. I thought it was last season that we played Cincinnati. No. That's right. Game 1 of this year, we beat Cincinnati, but yet they're ranked higher than us. Okay. Then you look at just, I mean, do I need to keep going through and keep talking about this SEC like bias that I don't think is really going away anytime soon because it's just been drilled into people's brains that just if you're a team in the SEC, you've got to be ranked because well, you're SEC, so it means you are better than everybody else, no matter what, right? Like, and then I love because then you see people talking all the time about, well, Ohio State hasn't beat any ranked teams. Indiana hasn't. Well, no, Indiana beat one. They did. Oregon. Like it's just Washington. Washington's 5-1. Their only loss is to Ohio State. They should be ranked too. If they were in the SEC, they'd be ranked. Instead we've got like a 4-2 Notre Dame. Now I get it. Notre Dame's both their losses were pretty good, and it was the two to start off the year. But okay, use that argument of like, well, they had two really tough losses. Okay, great. But then who have they won? Who have they beat? To get all the way back up to 13th and 15th. And I know those aren't SEC, but I mean, Notre Dame's kind of one of those teams that always gets the benefit of the doubt too. But like all these teams in the SEC, it's just this cycle I keep bringing up, right? Why is Texas 4-2? Just because at 4-2 back at 17th and 21, just because what they beat Oklahoma? They beat one team. It's hilarious. For some reason, Indiana beating Oregon allows them to get jumped up to third in the nation. But then Oregon's loss to that number 3 team in the nation drops them from 3, I think was where they were, to 8 and 9th. Why? They should still be a top 5 team. Or at least a top 6 if you want to keep at least the unbeatens up there. Okay. This number 7 or 6, I guess, let's just go ahead and just be honest about this. Boom. Texas Tech should actually probably be there. Then Oregon, then Alabama, then Georgia, and then there so far and so forth. But the SEC just kind of keeps rolling. They get overrated up in the preseason polls, right? And then you look at the strength of schedule and they play nothing but ranked teams, but then they keep losing to each other, but then they don't drop much. So then they stay ranked, and then they just keep, it's just, I don't know. It's almost kind of getting tiring talking about it. And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens when the first college playoff poll comes out and see just how much like they just kind of rely on the coaches in the AP poll to do their first initial poll, because that's where the effect comes in. I don't like the fact that it affects it that much because, some teams have to fight and claw just to even get into the rankings. Others can get one key win because of what conference they play in, and boom, they get shot up to being overranked or overrated, overranked. And then, due to preseason polls that were completely wrong. And again, yes, right now the AP, the coaches poll, they don't mean anything because they don't do anything, but they help perspective or your perception on these games that are happening right now. And again, I'll bring back up my idea. I think we got to go, and it's starting to happen with some of the uniformity in the different conferences with their way they're going to schedule. The first 3 weeks of the season are non-conference games, period. And then by week 4, you can start put out your first rankings. And then you got conference games. But the first 3 weeks, non-conference only, and that's where then you can start to watch teams play and then put an educated guess or educated, analyst into where you think they should be ranked. Outside of that, shouldn't be ranked. And then you just go into the college football playoff poll. All right. Let's go ahead and start talking about this Minnesota game. Saw today that Matt Rhule talked about, I think he said it was their Friday walkthrough, so I'm guessing they're probably going to do it during the day. They'll do like a final walkthrough during the day on Friday. But he said that they're going to hold that at Emmett Johnson's old high school. Love that move. Matt Rhule is a genius. I mean, talk about just keeping him motivated. And if they are doing it the day of the game, just earlier in the day, that's going to put Emmett in like this headspace that I think is just going to be, yes, let's go. That dude has been waiting. He's had this game circled. Okay. Like he has been waiting for this game so he can go out there and prove to Minnesota, like, hey, you guys were wrong for never even thinking about offering me. I mean, he was the Gatorade Player of the Year in high school, and they didn't offer him. That's crazy. Also going into this game, it feels like Matt Rhule wants to just like slay all these dragons, get all these monkeys off their back. Because right now in this game, if we win this game, we will, for the first time since 2006, win back-to-back road games. Okay? We're going to be wearing the all whites. So hopefully he'll now can say we can break the curse of the all whites, the surrender whites, right? So there's 2 of the monkeys on our back. And the monkey of usually what's been kind of happening whenever we do finally get that first ranking or, a little bit of success, a little bit of talk, a little bit of pub in the national eye, we like come out and we just absolutely stink. We lay an egg almost every time. That first game out, it's just like, we'll sit there as fans and start going, okay, here we go. Going to get this momentum going. Oh, finally ranked. Now we're just going to keep going. And then we come out and we just like throw out a dud and just get whooped on. So if we win, that'll mean Matt Rhule did slashed all those things down, slayed all those dragons, took all those monkeys off of our back. And I think that will just kind of now keep this momentum really going and really starting to show that this program is heading in the right direction. And it has changed. It is no longer the loser mentality. It is now the winner mentality. And it's time to go do some things. If we win this game, which obviously I've predicted to do, I think this is really going to catapult us. And look, it's going to come down to how it looks too. If it's kind of how it's gone against Michigan State and Maryland, I'm still going to be happy about it and still go, okay, look, hey, maybe this is just kind of what this team's going to do. But a win's a win. I just won't be maybe as bullish on, okay, now we're really going to catapult our program forward this year, we'll have to see how the game kind of goes. But let's go ahead and look at some Gopher stats. All right. Some Gopher stats. And like what we usually do here, are their starting quarterback, Drake Lindsay, is their passing leader with 1,284 yards. Their leading rusher, because Darius Taylor's been hurt for most of the year, is I think he's like a freshman too. Fame is your boy. Fame is your boy. With 225 yards rushing, not a lot. Their top receiver is Lemeke Brockington. Man, sorry if I'm butchering these names. Who am I kidding? No Gopher fans watching this, so I don't care. 253 yards receiving. Their leading tackler, Devin Williams, linebacker, 50 tackles. And they've got a John Nestor, defensive back, with 3 interceptions. I don't know if Darius Taylor's going to play in this game. Can't remember what his status is. If he's still hurt. No, he's active. Okay. So Darius Taylor, hey, he's going to be good. He is the one guy we've really got to watch running the football. I know as a team, they haven't been very good this year, but like I said, it's been mostly because Darius Taylor has been hurt. I think he started off the season hurt, but he's really gained some traction back. He's now had 55 carries for 205 yards on the season. I don't know. Maybe he's not quite the same as he used to be, because that's a 3.7 average. That's not great. But look, the way our rush defense has been, I know it got a lot better against Michigan State. It didn't look quite as good against Maryland, who was also a bad rushing offense. So I'm still a little wary about where our rush defense is at. So that'll be interesting to see. I still think Darius Taylor is kind of the key for Minnesota to maybe have some success on offense against our defense. Because other than that, the way that they have to play is through the air with Drake Lindsay. And he's put up some pretty good stats, about 60% completion percentage. Like I said, 1,200 plus yards, 9 TDs, 3 interceptions. He has been sacked 8 times, which is, it's an okay amount. He is not mobile at all. And I'll go over some notes that I had from watching a couple podcasts. Minnesota Gopher podcast. I did get to watch a little bit of a couple different ones today. And they even mentioned like Drake Lindsay is like, our guy is not mobile. Which is something that they wish they had a mobile quarterback, because of the success that some of the mobile quarterbacks have had this season on Nebraska. And so that'll be interesting. They got some okay wide receivers. They got one guy with over 23 receptions. That's that Lemeke Brockington. About 11 yards a catch. Jalen Smith with about 21. Kenerick Lanier, he has 2 catches for 59 yards. So I don't know how often he plays. Maybe he's like a young guy that just kind of gets a couple bombs. But, hey, that can still burn you. Like whenever we had Jalen Lloyd going out there, and pretty much anytime he caught a ball, it was a bomb ball for, 40, 50 yards. So definitely got to be careful of that. But, at the same time, that stuff plays into our defense, right? We're number 1 pass defense in the country. And so I like our chances defending them and making them one-dimensional. Also, let's not forget, former Husker Malachi Coleman is on this team. Don't know how much playing time he's really been getting. He's only got 1 catch for 6 yards. But again, as much as we talk about Emmett and revenge, maybe, maybe their idea is going to let's get Malachi in a couple more and see if he kind of has a game where he's playing with a little more emotion. Because he's playing his former team. I don't know. But, I would say the biggest thing would be to watch out for Darius Taylor in that run game. If we don't come with the purpose to stop the run and really locked in, our secondary getting the right run fits, being focused, making tackles, not, everybody rattling to the ball. I think it can be a long day for Minnesota if we do that. If we don't, this could be Darius Taylor's get right game. And we don't want that at all. So that's, looking at those stats is kind of my few thoughts on that. Let me go over my notes here. Like I said, I got to watch a couple of Minnesota podcasts, and let's see here. The consensus that I got from these two different ones was they really don't like seeing our pass defense. They are a little worried about our pass defense. They're a little worried about being able to move the ball on the pass defense. They do, though, think that they can run on us. Seems like Emmett is their biggest worry. One of the podcasts even said they thought Emmett was our best player and could really wreak havoc on their defense. And then, of course, both kind of did the very obvious thing and did the whole Dylan's weird. He acts like Patrick Mahomes, very lazy. One of them did say that they thought that Dylan is easily rattled, and they think that this defense could get to Dylan and rattle him and take him off of his game, which is interesting. Because, look, I'm not saying that he doesn't, because I think he kind of does a little bit. But he never stops. And so far in the last two games, he's eventually kind of got himself out of it and led us to wins. So I don't know about that take as much. One of the guys has Nebraska winning the game, but kind of close. And then one of the other guys on a different podcast picked Minnesota to win 24-23. And basically they think that this is going to be the same old Nebraska. All of a sudden make mistakes, not play up to par, kind of shit the bed and give Minnesota the win. But here's the thing. I don't. And some of the national media guys don't. This team does feel different. And I think we've seen that the last two games for sure. Even the Cincinnati game, if you want to go back that far. And like I said, there's national media people that have been noticing it too. Just ask Jake Butt or Tim Brando. Brando's kind of been speaking the praise here a lot lately. But after Brando did the Michigan State game, he's really come out now 2 weeks in a row and talked about what he actually saw live while calling the game and what he thinks this program is going and heading. Jake Butt just did the same thing. Whenever Nebraska put out the video of Jacory Barney talking at half, Jake Butt came out and said, yes, you can tell this team is different after doing that Maryland game. He said, this is a talented team. This is a team that is determined. They have taken on the personality of their head coach. You've got players coaching players. You got players motivating players. Players have taken over the culture of this program. And that's huge. And that's why I definitely think this team is different. This team is going to be very different. Well, and that's why I think, I still believe that we can see some big things from this team going forward. And not knowing really kind of where Penn State's at, UCLA's at. Now USC kind of seems like the biggest game left on the schedule. And they kind of play a little bit into our strengths as well. And it's a home game. Things are looking good for Nebraska football. But we just, this team's got to get better week after week. But for this game, I am looking for Emmett to definitely go crazy. I think this is going to be the Emmett Johnson game for sure. I think he's definitely going to go over 100 yards, probably over 150 easily between, in all purpose, between receiving and rushing. If I have to pick, because it's kind of been on a cycle. So the other player on offense that I think is going to go off, or at least have a big game, is going to be Dane Key. Because I think that now that Isaiah's had 2 really big games, and like really big games, monster games, I have a feeling that Minnesota is definitely going to be watching the most recent and go, okay, we got to stop 13. We cannot let 13 beat us. Make them go to other options, but do not let 13 beat us. And I think it's going to open up some other people. And I do think Dane Key is going to be that guy. You started seeing it a little bit last week, and now I think we're going to see a big game from him. I think defensively, I think you're going to see us rush the passer a lot more because he's not as mobile. So I do think we'll get at least 1 sack on the night, but I think we're going to get a lot of pressure. And I think at some point you're going to see us get at least 1 turnover. I think we're going to kind of hurry him up, and I think it's going to cause at least 1 interception. Maybe it's just going to be like a tip, and then we end up getting it or something, but some kind of interception will probably happen. And then I do think this is finally the game. We were so close last week. We were so close the week before, but there was a block in the back. We're finally going to get that special team touchdown. I don't know if it's going to be necessarily a run back, but I do think it's going to be a touchdown. We are going to get a special teams touchdown. Somebody knows something in Vegas. This game opened up as like a 4 or 4.5 point Nebraska favored. It is now, in just a couple days, blown up to 9. Nebraska is favored by 9. And then if you take the usual home team gets 3 points, then Nebraska could be favored by 12. And so something's going to happen. So my prediction on this game, of course, like I said, preseason, I had Nebraska finally beating this team. Oh yeah, speaking of monkeys off the back, just beating Minnesota, right? We haven't beat Minnesota in 5 years. For some weird reason, they always have our number, no matter how bad they are or how good we are. But I think that ends Friday night. I think, like I said, this is a different team. They have a different mindset. And I've got Nebraska winning 38-13. I do not think we get into that the 2 mid-quarter, second and third quarter lull. I do not think that happens. I think maybe we start off a little sluggish in the first. This is probably where they're going to score at least 10 of their points. I think Nebraska is going to get rolling midway to late first and roll the rest of the game, and they maybe only get a field goal somewhere later on in the game, and it's going to be 38-13. So that's my prediction. Cannot wait for Friday night. I think at the end of the day, this is still going to be a good game. I think Nebraska is going to finally take that next step in what this program needs to be doing. And I just can't wait. And it's going to be fun. I think the rest of the season is going to be fun, guys. No matter what could maybe happen, not happen with Matt Rhule, let's just enjoy the season for what we have. Because here's the thing. If Matt Rhule does leave, I'll say this last thing. If Matt Rhule does leave to go to Penn State, I hope more than anything, he can get this team this year to 10 or 11 wins. Because if he can at least do that and prove that this program is getting better, then I won't be quite as worried about finding the next head coach. Now, if he still leaves it, which I don't think it's already hard enough for Penn State to probably sell the fan base and the boosters on Matt Rhule as is. But it'd be really hard if he only won it like 7 or 8 games this year, right? So, but let's hope for 10 or 11. Because then if he does go, because he's a super hot commodity, because he's gotten Nebraska back to relevancy and then national media attention and in the playoffs, because if you're 10 or I think if you get to 11 wins, you're in the playoff. 10, I don't know, especially with our schedule. It's going to be tough. Not having many ranked teams on it. And then the one loss being the first ranked team that you actually played. If you were left and we were up to 9, we were in the playoffs, all that stuff. I think then you could be a program that could go after a really big name. What that big name would be, I don't know. I haven't thought that much into it, but I do think then those big names come into play, or those other hot commodity coaches come into play. So let's just hope for that. But let's just have fun with the rest of the season. To all the boosters out there, anybody else that likes to donate, hey, let's pony up more. That's one thing that I did catch Matt Rhule say too, that I think is a lot bigger of a deal than maybe some people have been reacting to it with. And that's the whole, we can't be ashamed basically of being who we are. And that's Nebraska. We used to be the innovators in college football with, weight training and the training table and the big video boards and the tunnel walk stuff and everything. Now all of a sudden we're worried about optics and we can't be spending money. What are we doing? Look, we want to be competitive. We want to go win championships. You got to have a roster that can do it. You got to have the money to get the roster now. It's just the way things are. I get it, older Husker fans, but college football is different now. Whether you like it, whether I like it, does not matter. The reality is college football is different. It's very different. But if you want to compete, you've got to pony up. That's why you do have teams like Clemson that were dominant. Well, maybe not dominant, but that were always the top 3, 4, 5 team in the nation, playing for national championships, having Heisman Trophy winners, all that type of stuff. And then Dabo is a coach that has chosen not to dive into the transfer portal, doesn't necessarily want to deal with NIL. He doesn't like the way things are changing, and he's been unwilling to change with the times. And now where's Clemson? Okay. We're a program that wants to get back. We never will if we don't change with college football. We don't have to like it, but it's just reality. So that's the way it is. Those are my final thoughts on the night. But go Big Red. Hope everybody has a great time Friday night. If you're going to the game, have a great time. Be loud. And if they're asking you guys to wear white, please wear white on the road. Let's be solidarity with this team. They're willing to wear the whites. Let's wear the whites. All right. Say screw the curses. So, all right, guys. Go Big Red. And I'll see you guys on the What Just Happened episode.